Welcome to Ofofo Studio. Normally, when we're talking about security awareness tools or programs, they tend to lead with fear or negative reinforcement. It's hard to make someone aware about key aspects of cybersecurity while gamifying the entire process and making it easy for them to consume. I have with me Craig Taylor, who's attempting and who has successfully done exactly that, brought in positive reinforcement to cybersecurity. He runs a company called Cyberhoot. He's the CEO and founder over there. And welcome to the show, Craig.
Oh, so good to be here. Thank you, Angad.
All right. So I've had a brief chat with you for the listeners and the viewers. We've interacted before, and Craig was kind enough to give me a sneak peek into the platform, and it was quite unlike anything that I've seen before when it comes to security services training. So, Craig, what is it that differentiates you, and what is it that impressed me so much last week?
Well, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Cyberhoot was designed from the ground up to be MSP friendly first and foremost and end user friendly. We've tried to identify critical gaps in cybersecurity that we need to address in the end user population. So things like phishing training in a fun way, in a positive reinforcement way, is our central theme in our product today that differentiates us from the rest of the market. The rest of the market uses a negative reinforcement schedule or training approach to getting end users not to click, right? And it's no different. Here's the best analogy I've found. You can train a dog with treats or with a shock collar. The entire industry is using shock collar approach. They're zapping people when they make mistakes. They're sending them to remediation class, and they're not learning what they need to learn. If anything, they're making people more anxious, more fearful, but not more competent, not more secure. Yes. They still click. And in fact, when you look carefully at attack phishing, which is what we call the classic phish testing, the URLs that are used have to be watered down in order to be registered and kept by the phish testing vendors. So end users get a false sense of security thinking it's that easy to spot a phishing email. If all I look at is the sender domain and it's nothing to do with the vendor, I know it's a phish. I wish it were that easy. And God, it's not. So Cyberhoot looked at that problem, looked at the negative reaction most end users get, looked at the difficulty of punching holes in all of the different spam filters and mail exchange records to get through. And we said, there's got to be a better way. So we created a simulation. Our simulations are hyper realistic. So if we're sending an email to an end user to review, and it might be from Netflix, for example, we'll drop the I in the domain name netflix.com and ask you, the end user, to identify if it's safe or unsafe. We can maybe have time to do a demo of this later. And end users who are used to attack phishing, they fail that test the first time. They look at it and they miss it and they say it's safe. But when they find out they made a mistake, immediately, by the way, we pair the stimulus and the response immediately together. That's a positive reinforcement strategy. It follows operant conditioning. They learn to look more carefully at typo-squatted domains and why hackers do that. So it's educational, it's positive, it is easy for the end user to be successful because the only way they pass the test is if they go through it once or twice, maybe 3 times at most, and they learn with a little help me button what they need to be looking for. So if they struggle the first time, they can go in and learn what they need to know in the second attempt. Or even in the first attempt if they want to go more slowly and carefully. So this replaces negative reinforcement training that doesn't work. And there's empirical studies I can show you that just prove that, and replaces it with 100% automated, positive reinforcement based phishing simulations tests that qualify for all cyber insurance requirements, industry best practices, legislative and different technical control requirements from NIST or, CSF framework, that's the cybersecurity framework, or any of these that say you must train and test on phishing. It qualifies for all that. But it finally, one of the great differences is you get 100% metrics for every single employee at your company having taken and passed the phishing test. That's complete opposite versus attack phishing, where you have 3 buckets of users. You have the ones that failed because they opened, clicked, maybe even entered their credentials to the fake website. They're the bucket of 5 to 10% of your users if you're in a good company. There's a group that passed because after sending them the fish that they opened it. There's tracking methods that tell you that, but they did not click. So they pass. And that's maybe only 45% of your users. That leaves almost half your users where you have no metric, no idea what they did.
Yeah. Yeah.
In contrast with Cyberhoot, we send you that assignment and we resend it and we escalate to management and we escalate to compliance reports that every user must do the assignment. And so you get very, very close to 100% of your users having learned, and passed that test. Do we know it works, Engad? I get asked that many, many times. And MSPs say, Craig, how do you know it works? And the honest answer is, anecdotally, we hear from MSP after MSP that they used to get 10, 20, 30 emails a week asking, is this a phish? Is this an attack email? I'm not sure, but something's off about it. I can't put my finger on it. I'm not certain I know what's wrong with the email. After adopting Cyberhoot, they say those emails fall to a bare minimum. There's always somebody that doesn't learn, gets 2 or 3 a week instead of 20 or 30. And so anecdotally, we know it works from that perspective. But we've also attracted the attention of 4 different cybersecurity researchers here in the United States who are beginning a study to prove empirically. Remember in the old days when we were in college and we wrote papers, we had to cite every fact that we put in our paper, as opposed to today where the internet says it has to be true, right? Well, this group of researchers is going to design a study to test with control and test population the effectiveness of this tool, because they've studied attack phishing and they've actually shown and proven that it doesn't work. It actually leads to more clicks on phishing attacks. We'll have some empirical evidence to back us up if things go correctly within the next year or so.
That's amazing, Greg. So I mean, like that's such a paradigm shift from the fear baiting part of it, in which you're penalized. You like most of these companies, they have strikes, a strikes kind of method when it comes to it, right? Like strike 1, strike 2, strike 3. You do it 3 times and you're out. And this is just the opposite.
Some people are getting fired.
Absolutely. It's hard out there. And the thing is, the phishing attacks, they're getting so sophisticated. It's even the ones who are trained in it tend to fail. Yeah. And that's only increasing, right?
Correct. There's 3 things that are happening. There's 3 trends that I see when I look, when we compare 20 years ago, 10 years ago, and today. Verizon did a study. They do an annual report called the Data Breach Report, DBIR. And data breach incident report. And they said from 2008 to 2023, the attacks are roughly the same. There hasn't been a change in the methodology. It's still phishing is number 1, password hygiene, lack of MFA is number 2, and a distant third is missing patches. So vulnerabilities that hackers take advantage of and exploit and then move into your environment. But that's the same as 2008. They said the biggest difference is the attacks are more frequent today than ever before. There's many, many more hackers and organizations hacking us than ever before, from nation states to organized crime to hackers and hacktivists to script kiddies. You can buy today ransomware as a service software. It's supported by them. You call an 800 number. You get support when you don't know how to make it work. They add features for you. It's ridiculous. Number 2 is the outcome or the results of attacks that are successful are much more devastating today, meaning it used to be they would encrypt your files with ransomware, and if you had good backups, you were fine. You could recover and be back in line maybe in 4 to 8 hours or a day at most. Today, they don't just encrypt your files, they delete your backups, but they also exfiltrate them. So you might not have backups to recover from. They take the data and threaten to release it to the internet. Oh, and in the most recent case here in the U.S., we have legislation at the SEC that says if you're a financial company, you must report breaches within 48 hours. Now hackers are reporting the breach to the officials, to the SEC, saying this company has been breached. We have their files and they're not reporting it. And they use that as a threat to the company to pay the fine before they get fined and it becomes public. So the second trend is that they're more devastating. The attacks are more devastating. The third is AI is making them more sophisticated and more realistic. Gone are the days
Mm,
of phishing attacks that are terribly full of spelling, punctuation, and grammar mistakes, right? You can take
right.
any country of the world, any native language you speaker can craft a phishing attack based on some vendor or something and put it through
Absolutely.
ChatGPT or Worm
Yeah.
GPT, Fraud GPT, and they will be able to put a perfect, very effective spear phishing like attack together, targeting a company or even an individual. So it's just so much more difficult, to your earliest point, to identify these things as malicious if you haven't been trained on the 7 components of an email that you need to know what to look for: the sender, the subject, the
Right.
greeting, spelling, punctuation, and grammar, emotionality, urgency, a fear of missing out, links to external websites, and attachments.
Yeah. Craig, but why did you focus on this problem? Like, why did you think that this was a problem worth solving?
Well, because we felt everyone was getting it wrong. We heard time and time again that end
Hmm.
users were upset and bothered by this. If you do Google searches on phishing, attack phishing tests gone wrong, you see that it's extremely difficult to get it just right. So you haven't made
Yeah.
it too easy on the one hand for users to obviously guess it's a phishing attack. And you don't want to make it too hard because you can have a exodus of employees if they keep getting
Right.
barraged with punitive, very effective emotional appeals. For example, there was a company that sent out around the holidays, the American holidays of Christmas, a bonus promise. Here's your bonus for the quarter and for the year. You've been working so hard. We've tapped our resources, our reserves, and we're giving you
Mm,
a $500 bonus. It was
mm,
legitimate. It was sent from inside the company, it looked like. And everyone clicked. And it was a test of their ability to identify phishing. And there was
oh
many,
man.
many people who quit the company right then and there. It was the last straw. So you can make it
Yeah.
too difficult. You can make it too devious. You can make it too easy. And then in the just
Mm,
right, it takes a lot of work and effort to get it just right. So as a consequence of that, many of the MSPs we talk to haven't been doing it. They don't do it. It's too
right.
difficult and it's too risky because their
Right.
lifeblood of an MSP is value. Giving value
Mm,
to the individual end users for making their computers work. And if you upset them every month or every 3 months, sending them attack phishing,
yeah.
you're burning that goodwill and that value.
True.
Eventually,
True.
you'll exhaust it and they will terminate
Yeah.
their contract. So that's another reason why MSPs weren't doing it. And yet, this is the single number one way hackers get into companies is through phishing attacks. So we
Oh,
said,
okay.
we've got to fix this problem. And we did start out with the traditional attack phishing, but we quickly pivoted to building this simulator that has been very, very well received by the community, by the end users, by management
Hmm.
at these companies. In
Hmm.
fact, even cyber insurance companies are partnering with Cyberhoot to build and
Nice.
study the effectiveness of our platform so they can offer discounts down the road on cyber insurance based on how many fewer claims there are from companies doing this novel version of phishing, paired with awareness training and some other things that we do as well.
How good is that? Craig, I mean, like we've heard so much about the platform now. And do you think we can get a demo of the entire thing?
Yeah, absolutely. We might not go through every last feature. We've got so many hidden features. Like we do product training. It was so easy to pull in every Microsoft and every
Hmm.
Google product to train end users on those things. We just built them into the system. And MSPs actually can add product training to lower their support costs when they roll out Microsoft Teams or a password manager. They can train
Nice.
end users the way end users want to be trained by sending them optional training from 1Password, Keeper, Bitwarden, LastPass, you name it. And it's just a hidden feature that we have. So we might not go into all of these things, but I'll share my screen if now's the time, Angad, and give you a quick demo. Perfect.
Let's go for it.
All
Yep.
right. This is your landing page, your dashboard. We have a governance policy module. Think of this as where you would put your password policy or your acceptable use of computers or your company handbook to your end users to read and accept. You can see compliance here for policies. You can see the number of policies. When you click on that box at the bottom, you'll see it turns into 3 or 4 different submenus. You have active policies, which you can see there's some dummy data here about non-disclosure agreements. Pending is future policies that haven't launched yet. There wouldn't be any here. Archive is what happens after the policy expires. Here's a WISP, for example. It was launched in 2021. It expired 1 year later. And it might make sense for me to quickly simulate what you would get when you send someone a policy. They get an email. Did I mention, Engad, that this platform is passwordless? We know that end users have multi-factor authenticated into their email. So we send every user a unique encrypted link that is only for them. If they click that link, they land here on the branded website. Now, this one's branded for us up here, but it would be branded with the colors and the logo of the MSP or the end company, the enterprise that has signed up for Cyberhoot. Then it's personalized here. This would say Engad or Craig, welcome to the site. This language is you can personalize it. And once you get started, we just present a document. Now, this is the template itself. You can see there's instructions here. So when you go back to here and you go into the training library, you'll see there's a WISP template. This is what you're seeing on this screen here. So you'd read through it, follow the instructions. There's search and replace things. This has been through, all of our policies have been through hundreds of audits, so they are ready and audit ready. You just have to edit them to make sure they apply to your company. And we've highlighted areas where you might need to edit what this says around HR as a role classification and so on through the policy. Once you're done, you simply type your name saying, I will follow this policy. And we give you a little, the obligation is to present the legally binding signature notice under the Electronic Signatures Act. This is a universal across the world that you can get a wedding signature on SaaS platforms if you give this notice. So you type your name and you click to accept and you're done. Now at this point, we give you a certificate of completion branded for your company or branded for the MSP. It also includes 15 minutes of continuing education credits. And if you have outstanding assignments, instead of saying thanks for completing, it would say, but wait, there's more. You have this assignment or that assignment to complete. We try to remind you or capture you here to go and do your outstanding assignments. So in a nutshell, that's policies: active, pending, archived, and policies. You can send some reports. It's as simple to create one as uploading a PDF, setting the start date and parameters around this. We send a reminder email. We send a first notice email on the day that it goes live. We send a reminder, and this is true of all assignments in the Cyberhoot platform, whether it's a policy, a video assignment, or a phishing test. We send a reminder to go do it. And on the due date, we copy your manager on it. And if you have to enroll the users with their manager tied to them, but that's as simple as completing that in Entra ID or used to be called Azure AD or Google Workspace. You can define managers for each user and it's automatically pulled in. So that's very, very effective at getting high compliance because end users are very interested in not bothering their boss with a nuisance email. Moving on to videos, we create automated programs of videos, 12 videos each year. So your end users will never see the same video. And it's the same process to simulate. You get an email that says, hey, it's time for you to watch this video on the many benefits of a password manager. Now, different from the policy document, videos on cybersecurity always have a quiz. So at the conclusion of watching this video, there's a quiz. I'll spare you the video at this point, but this is one of the Cyberhoot created videos on password managers, which we feel is a foundational skill set for every user. You finish a quiz by going through and answering 4 questions or 5 questions here, and you're done. So we'll skip that, but that's standard across every product on the market. What's different about Cyberhoot from the awareness training perspective of videos is we're an open platform. So we curate content from experts across the industry. We have over 1,200 videos in here, but we have multiple expert opinions on the benefits of password managers or how to spot and avoid phishing, in addition to our phishing simulation. And we find that end users get bored very easily when you have one vendor set of videos because there's only so much creativity Cyberhoot can give you for video content. But because we can bring our own content and multiple third-party content to bear to tell the same story about the value of password managers or phishing or don't stick USB sticks into your computers, we maintain the attention of the end user. So that's videos. Now phishing. Let's move quickly into phishing here. I don't want to take too much of your time. Oh, good. Look, we have this Netflix. I started out by describing our phishing test with Netflix. And I'd like to show it to you in real time. So you would get an email, Engad, in your inbox that says, hey, Engad, it's your phishing test. Once every 3 months, we test you with a phishing test automatically. Nothing has to be administered at your IT department or at your MSP. You simply have to enroll in our automatic training, and we will randomly select a phishing test to send to you. And this might be one of them. We have 100 or more of these. So in this case, it's sending you the Netflix payment declined phishing test. And your task is quite simple. Complete a unique phishing test simulation. You have to analyze the email we'll present for safe and unsafe indicators for the 7 components of an email, as I mentioned earlier, sender, subject, greeting, etc. You're going to label them safe or unsafe, but the best part is you can't be certain that all of your users have a foundational knowledge. So rather than punish them for not knowing something, which is what traditional attack phishing does, we give them help in the moment to teach them exactly what they need to know. There's a walkthrough video here. If you simply click that button, it pops open a new video over here, which obviously there's advertisements in place, but you can skip that and then you're quickly into the Cyberhoot video giving you an overview. So that's for end users. But at the end of the day, we'll just give it a try and see how it goes. Now, Engad, I'd like to test you to see how you do in this. So with your permission, you can edit this out if you I have high confidence.
Absolutely, Craig.
Okay.
I'd love to go through this.
All right, I'm going to zoom in a little bit on the screen here to see if you can make sure it's visible to you. Now, I might zoom out in a moment, but this is a wizard-driven approach. So this is 6 questions about this email that you need to understand to learn phishing. And along the way, you can hover over the help me to learn, for example, the sender. Hackers can't email you from the company domain they are impersonating. So in the case of Netflix, it would be netflix.com. They can't do that. Traditional attack phishing would have some domain like, authenticationfailure.com or Cyberhoot. Our attack phishing would be ch-accounts.com. And it's nothing related to the vendor being impersonated. And it makes people think gives them overconfidence in spotting these things versus what we have here. So I'll ask you, take a close look at that and tell me, does that Netflix sender appear safe or unsafe?
The domain looks unsafe. It's missing an I after L. Yeah.
Exactly. So you were paying attention, as were your listeners. So absolutely. So we would mark this as unsafe and move on. Now, it goes red when it's unsafe. And this little box, it hovers around in different parts of the screen so as not to hide the question. So the next question is, does this subject appear safe or unsafe? And the help me is a little helpful here. We tell you the truth is that sometimes a subject line is impossible to determine or identify if you're under attack. However, in concert with other things, you need to watch out for things like an artificial sense of urgency, something totally unexpected or illogical, the presence of spelling mistakes or grammar punctuation mistakes, or something too good to be true. All of those are designed. Most phishing hackers and social psychologists and phishing attackers know people will make more mistakes if they react to something without thinking. So that's where we start to see this idea of urgency and emotionality built into emails and even subject lines. So here we have a Netflix billing email around charges to a credit card. And here's the subject. And your question is this subject safe or unsafe? And it's payment declined dash capital A action, capital N needed exclamation mark. Do you see that as a safe subject line or perhaps a little urgent?
There is definitely a sense of urgency to it.
Okay.
I mean, to be completely honest, if I had seen, if this mail had been in my inbox, I would have not paid so much attention to the subject line. But now that you've pointed out those things, now that I know from that help me box that a sense of urgency or any emotional appeal in the title could be suspicious, I'd proceed with caution.
Yes, absolutely. So we would mark it unsafe. Now, if you change your mind, let's say we decide, no, that could be safe. You can just go back and change it. but I'm going to respect your choice and say that it's unsafe, and notice it goes red. Now,
Hmm.
please pay attention to the fact that we always personalize this. So this is my name. Yes, I'm Craig Taylor, co-founder of Cyberhoot. It's personalized, and yours would be your name, and anyone receiving this would have their name, which allows
Right.
us and I'm going to give you a freebie here. It would allow us to say, "Dear Craig" here, because we know who we're
Right.
sending it to, and therefore we can impersonate a legitimate subject. Does this, or
Right.
greeting rather, does this
Hmm.
greeting appear safe or unsafe? And we do warn you about generic greetings like valued customer or dear sir, dear
Yeah.
madam. Those
Yeah.
are indications of a lazy hacker, so to speak. Because hackers, it's not that hard to personalize these hacking emails. But if you get a
Right.
generic one from a vendor who knows your name up here, it's a surefire way to identify you're under attack. So for that freebie,
Unsafe.
unsafe. Next, we move
Hmm.
on to question 4 of 6. Does the spelling, punctuation, grammar appear safe? And, you have the Queen's English over there, I think, or now the King's English
Yeah.
here in India. Although I know you've
Right.
been independent since what, 67, right? So, but you did
Yeah.
have a
More
lot
than
of
that.
good
Sick.
English schools teaching you that this is all very, very bad, right?
Absolutely, man.
We
Yeah.
explain that here. Okay, so
Hmm.
unsafe. Now, this next question, Engad, is the most important question for many people doing this exercise because it connects all the different little pieces of an email into one central theme. Hackers
Yeah.
and social psychologists understand that people make more mistakes reacting to things. There's many times in our lives where we react to something too quickly and we later regret it. It's no
Right.
different with email. If you react to an email that's urging you to take action, to do something right now, you're going to make a mistake. That's why
Hmm.
hackers build in something too good to be true, or a fear of missing out, or urgency. And so let's take a quick look at what this Netflix email reads as. Update your payment information ASAP in order to continue watching Netflix. Failure to do so will result in your account being locked immediately. Oh my goodness. That
Yeah.
is, what is that? Urgent and emotional, meaning unsafe,
Absolutely. Yeah.
or in other cases, calm and informative is typically looked at as safe, right? So we'll
Yeah.
we'll mark it unsafe. Good choice.
Hmm.
Now we're down to a link to an external website. This is the sixth question. And if you look at that carefully, and this is another place where there's some test users getting used to the test. When they see all these
Hmm.
other negatives, right? This is unsafe, unsafe, unsafe. They go, oh, this has to be unsafe, and they mark it unsafe. But we're not asking you to treat the email as a whole safe or unsafe.
Right.
We're teaching you to look at individual components to mark them safe or unsafe so that you have a strong concept of all the puzzle pieces that make up a potential phishing attack. And when you have all those
Makes sense.
pieces of the puzzle put together, you can authoritatively decide quickly, efficiently, securely that this is or is not a phishing attack because you have a crystal clear picture. You're looking at a completed puzzle with all the puzzle pieces connected together to form that crystal clear picture of phishing. So in that
Hmm.
case, don't be fooled into saying this is unsafe because if you look at it,
Yeah.
the eye is there.
The link is all right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this would be safe and it would go green. We submit and look at that. Excellent job, Angad. Now I coached you a little bit, but I have no doubt that you would have been fine. And you
No, I thank you. Thanks, Craig. But like I said, I enjoyed this very much. I mean, this normally it's I mean, like it's like diffusing a bomb, like going through a phishing mail like that. Like okay, I'm gonna click on the wrong link or something.
oh my goodness.
But here I loved how fun it was. I loved how each step was explained,
Mhm.
and like you broke it down into different components and made me see them individually and as a whole,
Right.
and I can understand why people like it so much.
Exactly. So as you conclude, this is branded for us because we're looking at a
Hmm.
Cyberhoot demo site. You get 15
Hmm.
minutes of professional development hours here. Your name would be here. The colors of your
Nice.
company are reflected here. What training you completed is shown here. So that's one benefit that's sort of not everyone offers that benefit, especially not as part of fish testing. We had one
Hmm.
recently. We signed a hospital with 800 employees because their nursing staff all have email and they have to
Hmm.
do cybersecurity training on the one hand, and they have to do continuing education on the other hand. And they thought, hey, if we go with Cyberhoot, it's a positive gamified approach, but I
Yeah.
hit two targets with one arrow by doing
Yeah.
both cyber training and continuing education. So they would love that. And then
Yeah.
there is a gamification. If we go and look at users in this environment, and I'm going to go pull myself up, you'll see that we have gamified the cybersecurity maturity of users. So every user starts out as a fluffy hatchling, and then they move
That's cute.
through these gamified levels as they complete more and more assignments: Perch Protector, Talent Guardian, all the way up to Wise Owl Sage. And when you click on the actual user, like, this is still dummy data, so don't think that I'm not at the highest level of cyber literacy. But you can see I've done 83 different tasks, assignments, and in 83 attempts. So I never failed one, but I wrote the test, so it's hard to fail your own. But this is where I'm at, this Talent Guardian. And it's kind of cool. People actually start talking about, what owl are you at the water cooler at lunchroom? They're like, oh, I'm the Talent Guardian. Ha, you're the Talent Guardian. I'm a Wise Owl Sage. So, they get to different levels. Like, this is the Perch Protector. So he's a little bit less, Raf is a little less defensive minded here. So it's just to make it fun, Angad. It's one of those.
I can imagine those conversations
where you want to make it fun for people to enjoy learning cybersecurity, because cyber literacy is so critical to any job you perform today outside of like physical labor jobs, right? But even then, you still have to get your jobs through email and through bid and proposal work. So even on physical labor jobs like construction, things like that, you're still beholding to the internet, email, and you need that cyber literacy. Anyone graduates from university or high school today with computer literacy. They can type on a keyboard, they can operate a mouse and a calendar and email, but they cannot do it safely and securely.
True.
So that's where we come in and we teach those skills in a value added way. So MSPs actually see customer retention go up with Cyberhoot instead of going down. And they have lower costs of supporting those clients because there's fewer incidents, which means their engineering staff, the most expensive and difficult to find, have their nights and weekends, their family time back because they're not battling a ransomware event on Friday night. Ransomware doesn't happen and got it Tuesday at noon, and it stops at 5 o'clock, and then the next day you come in and you start again. No, it starts Friday at 4. And all your weekend is gone as you figure out how to restore data and contain this ransomware event, burning out your engineering staff. So it's very costly to an MSP.
Yeah. There's another point that I want to bring up, Craig, is within the platform, the level of automation is amazing. I mean, the way you've automated certain tasks just to make it transparent for the developers, for the engineers, for the management, the leadership. And everybody's involved, right? And it's all automated. Like, normally it would take about 2 or 3 people to do everything that the platform is doing right now. But I like how it's just plug and play, and you can actually forget about it, which is not recommended for most cybersecurity training tools. But like in this case, it's so peaceful.
Well, you're not really forgetting about it because there's a weekly compliance report that goes to all management. There's a monthly configurable monthly overall compliance report that is for the entire company. There are email reminders that go out to individuals and then their management. So we really automate the delivery of the assignments and the follow through until someone does their assignment. You find that many companies will take a few emails to get started, but after 1 or 2 months, users know all I have to do is my 5-minute assignment on the first of the month, and I get no more notifications, no more emails saying you're behind or you have to do this or you have to do that, because we are incessant at reminding people. So if you want to get rid of all of those reminder emails, you just do your assignment on the first day. It's 5 minutes. Your meeting ends at 9:46, as it is now here where I am, and you have 15 minutes to do your assignment. You can do it and still have time to go to the restroom and back, and you're back for 10 o'clock.
Beautiful, beautiful. What else is on the roadmap for you, Craig?
Well, I
for
didn't.
Cyberhoot? What's
Yeah,
that? Yeah.
thank you for that. We're continuing to do more and more gamification. We have
Hmm.
we have dark web built in, and we have multiple sources of dark web information. I should have mentioned that, but in the platform we can report on dark web. We have a
Nice.
very nice pre-sales cybersecurity checkup for
Hmm.
new companies. So if you're an MSP and you enroll a prospect into the system to run some basic video trainings and a phishing simulation to give the client a taste of what you can do for them, it's a very
Hmm.
nice door opener to have the conversation with them. But we give you a final report, a checklist that includes a typo squatted domain list. So if you have
Nice.
acme.com, we'll give you a
Hmm.
list of every company domain, every domain that's registered on the internet that is off by one letter. So you'd have
Nice.
acma
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
me and all of these different variants to show how likely it is for you to be targeted by a hacker with a
Right.
domain that's registered very similar to your own. We do an
Hmm.
MX record check. So we check on and we report to you the SPF, DKIM, DMARC records. We give you a
Nice.
domain search of dark web exposed accounts with redacted passwords and without redacted passwords. We do both for current and former employees. So there's a really nice full service checkup on a company as a pre-sales report, and that's all entirely free. Every new customer you put into Cyberhoot is free for 30 days. Our contract with
Nice.
the MSPs is month to month. We don't lock you in for a year or two. So these are all built in today. Now, you asked the question, what's next? We're
Right.
continuing to iterate and build more gamification into the platform. We're going to be
Hmm.
adding things like a report fish button. We don't have that today. There's not a huge need because so many users understand what they're doing now that it hasn't been a priority as it is in other places. And
Hmm.
we do see a lot of positive comments. If you were to do your homework on Reddit or some of the review sites like G2 or
Hmm.
Gartner peer reviews or Trustpilot, any of these, you'll notice that we almost have exclusively 5-star reviews. There's almost
Wow.
no fours or threes out of five. We
Mm.
have a lot of really positive comments out there. We just need to get our name out there, which is why we're partnering with Ofofo, because you bring us to so many great companies looking for solutions like this.
Thanks, Craig. We try.
Yes, you do.
All right. So, Craig, how can people get in touch with you? I'm sure, like a lot of people would need your expertise,
Mhm.
like, either personally or via Cyberhoot. How can people get in touch with you?
Well, you could email is the easiest. If you send an email to sales@cyberhoot.com, we'll send you some info. You can sign up for a
Hmm.
free trial if you want to use our most powerful platform. It's called our Power Platform. You can sign up for a free trial by going to cyberhoot.com/partners. That would be for MSPs and resellers. If you're a direct enterprise or customer, you can email the sales or you can sign up under cyberhoot.com/businesses. And lastly, Angad, this is really something we believe strongly in. We want to give
Hmm.
Cyberhoot away for free to end users. So if you're an individual
Wow.
and you want to get some basic cyber literacy skills, sign up for free at cyberhoot.com/individuals. Now, we also have a newsletter I'd love for people to subscribe to and an RSS feed to our weekly blog where we blog about emerging threats in the industry to companies and individuals. To stay on top of what's going on, you'll want to subscribe to that newsletter, which is about once a month.
All the links will be included in the description.
Yes,
Everything that Craig just mentioned.
fantastic.
Craig, this was an absolute banger. I loved being with you on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. You're a great interview host. And Ofofo has done, for anyone that's not listed on Ofofo as a buyer or a seller, I highly recommend it. This is your commercial now because it's been so open, doors open with us at Ofofo. We've had so many inquiries about Cyberhoot even before we're doing this video. I expect that to go up a lot more even. But they're very responsive. I've emailed you all day and all night, and you're instantly responding to us. It's amazing the quality of what you're doing.
Thank you, Craig. You just made my day.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Absolutely. Looking forward to the next one.
Thanks, Engad.
Bye bye.
Take care.
Thanks, man.